summon back onto a Jace, I suppose. He is 4-1 on that pick. He's also 4-1 on the Urgot, but of course you can only pick one, and the Urgot will go the way of Kingzone.
And there's the Tahm Kench to come in, and one of the things that I guess that maybe Kingzone is, well, or that Sandbox could be thinking is that they're going to first pick the Jace and look to potentially flex it into the bottom lane, as it's considered the hard counter to Ezreal bottom right now, and so maybe Sandbox is just trying to restrict access to the Ezreal until the second pick ban phase, but with the way that the draft has already happened, Sandbox could just snap Ezreal here still, and then just put the Jace top against the Urgot. And that's not going to be the case. So Galio's now picked with Camille, probably going to be a Galio support, so maybe Kingzone just wants to get Kalista banned in the second phase.
Yeah, feels that way. For you guys who haven't been watching for a week, Galio is mainly just a support now, even though Dove has played 3 games of it. Joker's played 5, so definitely a big pick for him after the Thresh. And another sighting of Aatrox here in the LCK. Now, last I know, after some of the nerfs, you're not the biggest fan, but it has seen some success so far here.
Well, it is indeed locked in. We're moving to the second ban phase now. Cassiopeia banned away. These are very heavy physical damage champions on the side of Kingzone, so you're going to need to definitely look to get some assistance. And if you're Kingzone right now, you're probably thinking about Lissandra when you see that Camille and that Galio. So Sandbox now banning away the Varus. That is one of the few magic damage offering ADCs that does exist. I mean, Ezreal still on the table, and Ezreal's quite strong. For both of these team compositions right now, neither really electing to ban him away. There's the Victor ban also, so lots of heavy magic damage champions being taken off the table, predominantly because both team comps are extremely heavy in the physical damage department.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way. And you may think, why the Varus when you have such heavy dive with Camille Galio? Well, Tahm Kench is a champion, so anything can really survive up against any composition if you do have that Tahm Kench. And down to the wire here, 0 seconds. It's going to be Sylas with just that minuscule amount of time left over. Sylas also seeing some popularity here in Korea recently.
The Sylas is really interesting because if the Jace ends up being top lane, he ends up just becoming Jace temporarily until Jace basically says, hey, you have to transform back because you need to heal. So on the side of Sandbox, if you're Kingzone and getting actual usage out of Sylas, there's still not enough ultimates, I think, to really warrant the pick. And now Kingzone with yet another heavy physical damage champion, and you just need a really big powerhouse now.
Well, the Ezreal feels right, and it is going to be picked up alongside of that Galio in the bottom lane. At least that's what it looks like for now. We'll have to wait until that last pick to make sure.
And you gave away Lissandra. I'm really not sure what Kingzone's doing unless this is an Urgot mid lane and we're finally going to see the true king of the jungle. You need a massive amount of magic damage. No, that's not damage. The problem is that Kingzone, on paper, initially they wanted to engage you with the Camille and with the Galio, but when you show your hand face up with the Urgot and the Aatrox, and you just want to run into the opposition, you're sort of producing anti-synergy with the Tahm Kench, and then you're giving Sandbox the luxury now to play front to back and change and recalibrate mid-draft into this pseudo-poke composition that has peel and also has other gears to engage and get picks. Kingzone's drafts all over the place, and it feels like they were just, it was like a Build-A-Bear workshop as we were just going through it the whole time. I really don't know what they just ended up with. All of their champions are such short range. How are you going to get onto the Jace or the Ezreal? The Lissandra is going to easily handle any sort of frontline attempts at an engage. And I don't know how they get priority in any of the lanes, so the Camille is just free to run a field day over the Aatrox. This is quite bad.
Yeah, they were trying to build a bear, but they didn't even end up with the bear. Still no Annie in any of these drafts. So we'll have to wait and see how this does work out. I tend to agree with you. Definitely liking the Sandbox draft a little bit better, and raises another question. Maybe it was just a fluke of Sandbox versus Afrika. Maybe it was just Afrika showing up big time. Either way, we'll have to see how this one goes.
So we'll take another quick look at the team composition. The VR is making this a little hard for me. Galio, Ezreal, Lissandra, Camille, and Jace. He's right on the end there. The Defender of Tomorrow, so he's going to show up tomorrow, so don't worry about that. But this team composition, it has pick potential inside of it, but for the most part, against the enemy comp, it wants to play front to back. Galio Ultimate used defensively, Camille to peel and lock down targets, trying to get to the Jace and the Ezreal. That'll be a really good thing for them. But on the flip side for Kingzone, Urgot, Aatrox, Ryze, Xayah, and Thomas Kench, they want to do a lot of random things, but the one thing I'll tell you is that if this team falls behind, there's no recovering for this team composition. And trying to turtle their red side jungle is going to be really difficult.
We'll have to wait and see if they can actually pull it off as we jump into game number 1 now. Here we are on the Rift for match 47. If you're just joining us after a little break, we have entered the second round now of the LCK Spring 2019, which means that these two teams have faced off against each other. In the first round robin, ended up being a 2-0 to the side of Sandbox Gaming over Kingzone DragonX. We'll wait to see if Kingzone can flip the tables here, but our good friend Lasek not too happy with the draft from Kingzone here in game 1.
And the other thing about this is we see Pawn with the cleanse and the phase rush, so Lissandra's able to play this lane via attacking Pawn's mana pool and then looking to recall and reset for priority, which is really scary when you consider that you're up against a Camille. And yeah, you do have cleanse available, it just can get very slippery, and Infernal Dragon being the first one of the game is super important for both of these team compositions. A little bit more so for Sandbox, as their champions are going to have more access to the raw damage, whereas some of the champions on Kingzone stop building damage at a certain point.
Yeah, we've been seeing more of the Aatrox even after the couple of nerfs that he did receive. Biggest one being the nerf to the cooldown of his E, so he doesn't get quite as many dashes to pull off the same combo that he used to have. But it was gone for a bit after the nerfs, and then it's kind of back. But I'm going to hold that thought as OnFleek is going to be spotted here on the wards. Going to the blue buff might just lead to some vertical jungling.
This is really strange. Tushin doesn't actually move to mess with the Camille, who they know has relatively low HP, and even though Camille is level 2, some of her cooldowns is being used on the blue. Tom, it looked like from that angle, could have definitely messed with her a little bit, and every little bit counts when your jungler and your team knows exactly where she's going. So a little bit of a missed opportunity right there, but so far everything else is remaining standard. Aatrox looking to get frisky up here in top lane. Can Rascal hit the flash E? And
he is on a ward right now. The ping comes in and Summit takes a little back seat in the lane, so they know that he knows. And no gank will come out here. In the vertical jungling, no one actually went for any extra camps. And it looks like the Scuttle Crab was even skipped here by Cuz, just going straight to that blue. So could go the way of OnFleek.
Oh, man. Looks like Camille.
He's on the hunt here.
He is on the hunt. He's on the prowl. Mid and top both have priority, but due to proximity right here, the Urgot's not in that bad of a situation. Oh, wow.
Okay, he's going to see it there as OnFleek hops forward.
Okay.
Gets 10 gold for his troubles, really trying to bully in there, but no hookshot lands, and no action will proceed.
So right now, this is one of the predicaments that Camille Jungle can find herself in, where she wants to get an early advantage early on. She wants to find the enemy jungler and give her team map hacks, and that is what OnFleek did, but didn't quite get the edge that he was maybe hoping for. And when Rubber Band Golems are going to be on the agenda, accompanied with the Wraith Camp coming up in just a minute here, post-top recall, things can certainly get scary, as OnFleek's left-hand side jungle won't be up for a while, which means that someone's going to be on an island for a couple of minutes.
Could certainly happen. As for now, we take another look at the bottom side. Don't see too much Xayah nowadays, but Deft is definitely one of the 80 carries that is trying to bring it back. When you consider a bunch of the pick that they have in the Galio, Camille, and Lissandra, don't blame him for going for a bit of a safer pick in the 80 carry role.
And across the board, I mean, everything is still remaining okay, and look at one of the predicaments that Pawn's in right now. He's going to need some relief from Aatrox, which it looks like they're calling him in to do right now. This is going to force Rise to share XP with the Aatrox, which some people might not think is the end of the world, but let me tell you what is the end of the world. It's when Lissandra is able to re-get priority now post-recall, and then Rise is just forced to absorb it. And this can definitely lead to a problem in upcoming minutes. And this is all just having to do with mid lane wave manipulation. You can see the teleport coming in right now, and everyone just saw where Aatrox was. And so if he shows up again, they can hit tab, they can count his CS, and they can say, okay, well, we all know where he is still.
And look at this, On Fleek gonna come down to the bottom side, puts down a control ward, but knows that he is spotted. So no gank will come apart here, as he was looking for it.
And looks like he's just gonna proceed to his golem camp, as Aatrox doesn't really look like he has anything to do. And this is what I was talking about briefly in, right before we jumped into pick ban phase, is that top lane dynamic. Jace is already ahead, 12 CS. He's about to get a plate. And this is where Kingzone could actually fall really far behind. Now, it is an Urgot, so he's always going to be useful. But going to have to do something about it. And Sandbox, I mean, we're 6 minutes into the game. They've accrued slight advantages almost everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, down 3 CS in the bottom lane, but it is Ezreal, so can make back that gold and then some with his Kleptomancy that he did bring in. No Frostmancy just yet here from the Ezreal, interestingly enough. We see that sometimes even picked up late, as we saw yesterday from Victor's in the bottom side. Give the Galio a bit of extra CS, get him to that first item a little bit quicker. You begin to just stack Kleptomancy plus Frostmancy and get all that gold back eventually. But decides against it here for now, as On Fleek is going to start up that Infernal, but we'll see if they decide to contest this right now. Top laners with no TPs. And even though On Fleek is pretty low, it doesn't look like Kingzone want to go, but Ghost taking a bunch of damage already from Cuz. He's going in there as well. And look at On Fleek's health as well. They're going to get their first kill on a Galio. They're desperately trying to get it, and it will go the way of the Lissandra on the side of Sandbox, but what a desperate fight from Sandbox to barely pick that up.
And that was a really, really big pickup for them just there. It ended up costing them just a death, but definitely worth it, as that Dragon's going to scale so much later into the game. And now, Kingzone, they're looking to try to utilize this temporary advantage with priority to just steal that red buff.
Yeah, trying to take back whatever they possibly can. I'm sure they know as well how big of a deal that Infernal is. Going to be going the way of Sandbox, and you can see just how close it gets. I mean, it goes to Lissandra.
Yeah. And just looking at it one more time, because, interestingly enough, he committed so much to Ghost, and this was such a close call. Lissandra able to get that at 55 HP. It's really tragic. Not quite sure what Cuz was actually trying to do there. He should have just ran straight into the pit after getting the full combo onto Ezreal and tried to prioritize the Infernal Drake, so already, we're not even 10 minutes into the game, but Sandbox has a massive edge. Whoa, okay, well, that's not a massive edge.
It's looking pretty massive here for Deft, at least. Fantastic trade for him. On top of Ghost, just weaving in and out of that one. As two-shot barrage sails through the goalposts and goes absolutely nowhere.
And the junglers just finding each other right now, as top lane continues to be an island, 20 CS deficit, even though we're not looking at it. Not quite sure why we're looking at the Ezreal and the Galio, but a plate is definitely bound to fall on this cannon wave. There's going to be nothing that they can do about that.
Deft even continuing to poke under turret, but does pick up that 160 gold, actually. Doesn't get split at all over to the side of Tucson, so nice amount of extra gold goes the way of the Xayah.
And right now, we're still just looking at this. It's just
Tom Kent's harass, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal, right?
They're playing ping pong, so. Meanwhile, though, in other lanes, The Ryze is almost down 20 CS. Lissandra, you can see that she has permanent priority, and this is one of the things that she can offer as a champion until Ryze comes back from his next recall. And at that point, he can sort of fight back with the priority control that Lissandra is able to utilize. And right now, on Fleek, you can see he's still level 6, whereas Cuz is level 7. And this is a byproduct of the rubber band camps, and just goes to show you how important jungle XP can actually still be, and also how painful, you know, in the same respect it can be on Camille if you don't find early advantages.
Yeah, I mean, essentially all he has gotten here so far has been the Infernal for his team, but almost gave that away as well. You could make a case for Kingzone to be feeling pretty decent if they got the kill and the Infernal, even given some of their losing lanes, but not quite the case here as Black Cleaver just finished immediately at 10:30 by the Jace. Gonna be having a much even better time up in the top lane.
And everyone's gonna keep the lanes going the same way. Mountain is gonna be coming up in a minute and a half. And if you're Sandbox, you really want to get that to really ramp up your Baron taking potential, but then also adding to the poke that you have in the later stages will really help with trying to capture and raise the Tier 2 and Tier 3 turrets on the side of Kingzone. And if you're Kingzone, you really need that to help bolster your Baron as well.
You can see what Dove was trying to do there. His demolition just came up, and it looked like the auto was gonna hit for the plate, but not quite going to happen as two control wards are friends and no longer friends. Spawn replaces his in the brush.
A lot of vision priority over the right-hand side, obviously anticipating and placed because they know that the dragon is going to come up in 30 seconds, so they definitely want to get all of the vision control that they can around the right-hand side river. It looks like Fleek has something else in mind. As you can see that he's posturing around the left-hand side, and it's looking like they might just say, hey, you know what? We'll go for Herald, and we're going to give them a Mountain Drake. And as long as we maintain a large enough advantage and don't allow them to push lanes, the Mountain Drake doesn't actually do anything. Turns out that true damage to objectives and stuff only matters if you can actually hit objectives. Who would have thunk?
Yeah. Who would have thunk?
Not me. Not I.
Weird kind of trade here as Joker and everybody is missing every skill shot. Finally, the Galio manages to land his as he missed a bunch before. But,
he hit that one.
Okay. Going forward. Nearly gets rooted there, but just get that slow.
Oh, there's a lot of chaos everywhere.
Okay, here we go. We're going big time onto Cuz, but he is an Aatrox, and immediately Fleek just gets blown up. Bit of a mistake there. Immediate cleanse out of Pawn, and even Dove has to flash away on Fleek. Maybe overestimating his power up against an Aatrox that he tried to all in on.
Whoa, okay, you know. Sandbox has to be really careful with these skill shots. They might hit something. So
you wouldn't want to do damage to any of those guys,
you wouldn't want to. You wouldn't want to do that.
You wouldn't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah, but that was really interesting. We're gonna probably take a replay of it in just a second here. But a really unfortunate turn of events for Sandbox, and yeah, we're gonna take a quick look at this right here. So the Scryer plant is hit, and doesn't end up showing that Aatrox is just there. And even though Jace is here with the Camille, you can see the Lissandra going for a trade-in on the Ryze. Camille gets comboed by Aatrox, and actually ults him before Lissandra's in range, and Ryze tells her to straighten up real quick.
Yeah.
Right here, Ryze kiting away, actually, even though Lissandra was out of mana on cooldown. Definitely could have squeezed in some more damage, and had Summit committed to killing Ryze, it would have given Rascal the necessary time to get into a position to then turn that around. So definitely a very close encounter in the mid lane. Mountain Drake still on the table here as the turret plates fall.
That is the case. You were talking about plates, actually. Dove took an opportunity after that whole shenanigans happened in the mid lane to teleport back and get one plate right before it did disappear. So A little bit of extra gold goes into his pockets, and 0-0-0 Lissandra up against 2-0-0 Rise have the same bounty. Gotta love it.
Nice.
You like that one, Alice?
Nice.
Is that a good one for you?
That's a thumbs up for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Fantastic. Well, now it looks like Sandbox, they have priority in bottom lane. They're looking to utilize that to clear out the vision around the Mountain Drake. And both top laners have teleport. You can see Sandbox doesn't look like they want to commit too quickly. Instead, trying to allow Pawn to get that priority in the mid lane on this Rise.
I think I saw Cuz try to dash over that fat wall, but couldn't quite make it over.
Oop.
As the Aatrox.
Nice little bit of poke right there.
Yeah.
From the Galileo. And Summit pushing in that wave. Looks like he's going to come over really quick. Find himself a control ward. He's going to take that out as On Fleek definitely wants to get this. Oh,
here we go. The phase rush. He doesn't have flash either. Going to be forced to ult himself because he's got that world ender. But take a look at On Fleek once again. Just going to go in the death chamber as the Camille trying to save his buddy. And here comes Death. Going to get a kill there onto Dove. Make that 2. And can we make it the hat trick? Yes, we will. 3 will go the way of Kingzone alongside what should be the Rift Herald.
Yeah, and then now Kingzone, they're going to manage to get themselves the Rift Herald. Rascal teleports into bottom to tell Ghost that he's not going to be getting that turret. And this has been 2 fights in a row where On Fleek presses the R button and then just ends up getting completely clown-bopped by the Rise. We're going to see it one more time. This was the weirdest thing in the world because both teams had full knowledge of what was happening, and it's so bizarre to see people voluntarily handshake things that are just going to end up so poorly for them. And just look at the Camille. It's really unfortunate when it's not level 2 and a red buff around mid lane. That's what it can end up looking like when she's not really far ahead.
Yeah.
And the fight just goes absolutely awful. They end up with a Rift Herald to boot. And then with Rascal down there, closing the ability for Ezreal to keep pushing.
It was kind of like, you know, the flash comes forward from Pawn. It looks like Dove is just going to die. He had used his E, so it's like, okay. But instead, On Fleek goes in. He baits his other teammates in as well. Gives them 3 kills instead of 1 plus a Rift Herald. So kind of a mistake snowball that gets it going here. And now Kingzone going to be real happy about that, especially after the early game wasn't looking too hot. And we'll have to wait and see where they do decide to go with that, with the Rift Herald. I don't see it actually in any of their inventories. That's kind of interesting.
Well, you know what you are about to see on the side of Kingzone?
What's that going to be?
A Mountain Drake capture.
Okay.
Unless Jace is... Never mind. He just goes right back down into bottom lane. And now, Cuz able to finish off that Mountain Drake as Pawn, pushing this bottom tier 1 here. And you can see that the reason that Summit's playing as far back as he is because he doesn't have enough intel on the Aatrox.
Oh, take a look at Dove once again in a bit of trouble underneath his own turret. And let's just hope that On Fleek doesn't ult into them this time. But it looks like he may need to do something as he's going to die anyway. Into the death chamber he goes. That's going to be a 3rd death for him. As once again, trying to spare the blushes of Dove, just gets caught out in a bad spot and immediately goes down.
Yeah, they're really trying to force things or look for things that they don't need to. And in their attempt to accrue advantages thus far this entire game, they've hand-shooken really poor trades and fell really far behind. I know that you really liked that.
Yeah,
oh,
hand-shooken. As well, yeah, as I said before, Tom Kent, he is a champion as he's able to ult into the Devour there. Deft ults and gets himself saved.
Oh, man.
Now Pawn, he's a big boy. Rune Prison comes down and Ghost not initially respecting that, has to flash away. As what is going on in this game? It's just fiestas all over the place.
Well, what's going on is that we just saw that Urgot's arms do not have a weight limit. Did you see the way that he just suplexed that Galio?
Yeah.
I can't imagine how much he weighs. Made it look like nothing.
He's a giant gargoyle made of some heavy material, so.
That was definitely an impressive feat. I think actually the most impressive thing I've seen thus far this match.
They need to nerf his arms, I guess.
That's what we're gonna get another quick look at it as Tom Kench lets Lissandra know it's an acquired taste. But so right here, Sandbox, they were out of the whole fight, but On Fleek decided that he wanted to get back into the fight as he paths into the Fog of War, even though I do believe he had full knowledge that Rascal was there from the ward. I'm not quite sure what he was doing, but I think that his screen might have just been locked on himself. And now an Infernal Drake is coming up next, although it doesn't say next. It just says...
Infernal.
Yeah, it just says Infernal.
Maybe they missed the timing on that one. Not 100% sure, but would have to guess that Infernal itself is at least correct, which would make some lucky Drakes so far. Infernal Mountain Infernal.
And if you just take a look at the game right now, I mean, the gold score at the top, it's only 1.5k in Kingzone's favor, although they're definitely looking to try to raise this mid-tier 1 turret. And realistically, Kingzone, because they're such short range, they don't have the ability to deal with the Sandbox wave clear. And this is sort of something that I was talking about in the pick ban phases. If you're Sandbox and you just sit back, get to 20 minutes, and you're completely even, it's really difficult for Kingzone to do anything. So the fact that they got the early Infernal, all of their lanes were winning in the CS department, and they had those alternate gears available, it was really surprising to see them constantly looking for more. And you know what happens when you put your hand in the cookie jar and your parents around?
What happens?
I don't know. It never happened to me, so.
Yeah, I didn't actually have a cookie jar.
It might look something like what was happening with Camille, but not entirely sure.
Or you get suplexed by, like, Galio.
Yeah.
You never want that to happen. As we just ate cookies out of the packaging. I don't know who actually owns a cookie jar in this day and age. As we were talking about Pawn as well. Feels like some games he shows up, and other games he's playing in, you know, Diamond 5 ladder. But today, he has shown up, even though it did seem like Sandbox was certainly helping him out. He's 3-0-2. With 2 big items already. So you were talking about magic damage. A Fed Rise certainly going to offer you that.
Yeah. And he is quite fed. He already has 2 completed items, one of which is the Zanya's Hourglass. So definitely not the easiest target for a Jace or a Camille to try to jump onto. And has, well, almost a fully stacked Dark Seal as well to boot. So far this game, Pawn is in a fantastic position to try to carry this. It's Sandbox, they're looking to fight again.
Yeah, TP's even coming in here. Not even going to take the claws. Doug just says forget about it. Didn't even see, it looks like only Rascal has to flash away from that one in the trade for the TP.
I want you to look at the minimap right now and locate where the Rise is currently standing, as there's 15 seconds until the Infernal. He's running over here like Usain Bolt. He's trying to make his way. A blue trinket is used, but look at the damage from Jace. And this is all Sandbox has to do. Play front to back. Where are you going? The dragon's that way.
Oh,
Hello?
He's going to get poked out so much, too. The Fear Beyond Death gets in there. As Cuz now with the World Ender, but another Shock Blast to the face from Summit. Gets away from the Urgot ultimate. Aatrox also uses his, so looks like a nice little bait into some ultimates, and it should be the Infernal going Sandbox's way. Yeah,
and this is a fantastic Infernal Drake. Let's just take a look at... So Camille just got 15 AD off of that, and she's certainly not going to have the most attack damage later on with the Jace and the Ezreal, so you just do the quick math of what these type of dragons are really offering for Sandbox. And look at that, another Infernal.
Wait, so he's backing on a control ward as On Fleek doesn't really seem to be paying attention. He doesn't have his hook shot. Honestly, guys, I don't know.
I'm looking back
I don't know
right now.
He's going to hook shot away, but that was quite interesting. Seems to be okay in the end. Just trusting in the heart of the Camille, I suppose.
What is in the heart of the Camille?
Steel.
Steel.
Isn't she 100% steel or something like that? I don't know.
What color is it?
I don't read the lore.
Is it cold?
It's chrome. It's steel color, you know, whatever that is. Gray, right?
She has a steel chrome cold heart.
Yeah, something like that.
Sounds like my ex-girlfriend. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, well. And meanwhile, Lissandra up in top lane, pushing out that wave really quick. And right now the game, in theory, should enter into a lull state. And the reason that I say that is because Kingzone, despite having... Yeah, but despite having the Mountain Drake, you cannot just enter the Baron pit with all your members against the poke from Ezreal and Jace. It's going to be target practice. So yeah, it's too difficult for them to start the Baron. They don't have the resources to force and siege a turret, and they just have to wait till the next Infernal. I feel like, realistically, unless Sandbox want to go full Leroy Jenkins, the next game probably just gets decided at that Infernal in 3 minutes.
It certainly does feel that way. It's kind of crazy how Kingzone gets that far ahead, but still, I'm going to hold that thought. Dove in a lot of trouble here. TP also coming in as Galio trying to save him, and Dove actually going to claw away. They're turning this around onto the Cuz as Aatrox incredibly known. Now Rascal's all alone here, and Dove ends up baiting the team at Kingzone into a lot of trouble. But the Devour gets in, and oh man, I have to hold my words. It turns around as now the Flash comes forward, and he's desperately trying to do damage, but nobody on the side of Kingzone will go down. But here's Ghost. It's Ghost versus the team, 1v5. He's got on fleek with him as well. Deft with a lot of health is going to give them some pause for now, as the Feathers will push them back, but oh boy. That had the potential to be huge from the Ezreal.
That was a super, super thin fight. I thought initially, for sure, someone on Kingzone was going to go down. We're going to take another quick look at this. It looked like at first to most people probably, hey, Dove got caught out. Teleport being channeled in as Thomas Kench comes in with the Abyssal Voyage Grand Entrance. Knocked up Cuz right away. But then the Urgot, I was almost certain that Rascal was just doomed. But you can see there, Joker mistimes his knockup on Galio and then just says, you know what, just take me. It was the only way to restore honor, apparently. And then right here, because Jace doesn't have Flash, he gets locked up with the Fear Beyond Death. And, yeah, right there, it was almost looking like Ghost was going to try to go on a 1 versus 3 mission. Yeah. Like Goku when he came back from King Kai's planet. It was, you didn't watch DBZ?
No, never.
You're deprived. Just gonna throw that in there.
And I've actually never seen even one episode.
All right, get off the desk.
you can talk about it with Atlas tomorrow.
Yeah, I
don't know what that means.
Well,
I'm sure some of our good friends in the chat have an idea, but Kingzone now feeling pretty good to take away a bunch of the vision around the Baron, but with Infernal coming up in a minute, I feel like you may want to focus your sights over on that side, as it would be a huge dragon to give away to Sandbox if they do pick up 3 Infernals.
Well, at this point, 45 seconds to go. And even though Kingzone has a lot of their items completed, whereas on the flip side, you can see Sandbox, they're waiting for some item completions. Sandbox is still ahead, as weird as that sounds. Yeah. Kingzone have to be so careful against the barrage, but if they can get a really good flank on the Rise, or some sort of pick-off with the Urgot or the Aatrox, they can definitely win the fight. But the problem is that Ezreal and Jace, you have to bring them both down, not just one.
Yeah. And they do so much poke damage as everybody's kind of just hanging around mid lane. And the more this goes on, I mean, Deft, he's losing his health. Even Tucson and Rascal have to be careful about that. And now they're chunked down to half. Immediately on fleek is moving to the Infernal. There is vision on that, so Kingzone could try to get on over there and contest this right now. We'll see how they do approach this. In comes the Abyssal Voyage. Right on top of on fleek. Heal also coming on in. Looks like Cuz.
Oh, you can't let this go.
Oh, who's going to get it? Okay, the smite is on point. But the TP from behind, can they force a fight is the real question here. As in goes Dove, going to get on top of him. Want to burst down Cuz before he can ultimate. But he's already in that one. A bunch of poke damage on top of Rascal. He flashes away, but he barely survives against that True Shot barrage. And no further Shock Blast will come in, so Kingzone swoop down, take the Drake, get away.
And this is such a huge victory for Kingzone. You couldn't let the 3rd Infernal Drake just go away. The Ezreal would just completely eviscerate you any single team fight. Same with the Jace. Triple Infernal Not something that we get to see that often, so it's very fortunate. Kingzone were able to somehow get there, despite the map state, 30, 40 seconds leading up to the Drake, and then managed to just steal that right from under Sandbox noses and then escape by the skin of their teeth. So right now, Rise, you can see, just completed his next item as well. Maybe they're waiting on the Guardian Angels for Urgot and Aatrox, but Sandbox now probably going to be looking to go on the offensive. That's a lot of damage out of Ezreal. If they can get onto him, they can certainly bring him down really quick, but that's the whole battle now. It's this dancing match which I can't speak. Ezreal and Chase. Sounded like Tom Kent trying to pronounce it or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
You're just trying to channel your inner TK, your boy, Thomas.
I just get so excited when I see him, you know?
Yeah.
It only look
How
at
could
the
you
way.
not, right? Look at him saunter onto the mid lane. It's
Imagine
so nice.
if we humans could manipulate our tongue with such finesse.
I know.
Look at him.
Imagine the possibilities.
God, so handsome.
Well, we may have a fight forced here. Oh, big root on in there by Dove, and now Tom Kent gonna get super low. Rascal also, and look at that AoE damage coming in from the side of Sandbox. They're gonna take down 3 so instantly. It's only Pawn on the backside as Cuz is also gonna go down. Pawn not part of this fight basically at all as he was pushing the top lane, and the rest of his team just disappears.
And it looks like they don't want to try to start the Baron here. Rise AoE damage is extremely scary. Oh, wait a second.
Well,
I think they're going to pick it off. Pawn oh, he does have a control ward. Do you like that? Does. Flashes away.
Yeah. Well, they do get something out of him, even though Dove was super low.
I think Rascal's teleport does come up. This could actually get very scary. Ghost swapped for Rascal. This is it. This is Pawn and Rascal's time to shine.
All right, here we go. Immediate
Abyssal Voyage.
teleport.
Oh, man.
But we also got Jace coming on in here.
God.
It's going to get super low. The Bouncy Bell, he just blows him up immediately over the wall, but it is going to go the way of On Fleek as Sandbox now just trying to get away with their Baron. But Ghost going to be spotted on the top
Dove.
side. Dove probably also not long for this world. The Baron TP, the Baron recall, he gets away. The Ezreal, that's a huge one to get on the map, as only Dove is going to go down alongside On Fleek and Joker from that Baron fight.
Yeah, and so they end up retaining 2 of the Barons on the 2 main focal point champions of their team composition as Jace looks to raise the mid-tier 2. Ezreal stands alone with the minions. Not sure if he's actually going to be able to clear that wave. Yeah, he is. All right. Okay, he's going to do a little more than that.
He's got red buff too. Oh boy, as they're just going to Realm Warp away. They don't want any of this. So Summit is just saying hello. Take out the mid-tier 1 as they do end up taking that one. The 2-shot barrage. Looking for Rise here. Can he get it? Can he get it?
All
right, well.
My life was a lie. Find out next time.
A little bit anticlimactic there, but you know. We can turn this into a golf broadcast if you want. As a Mountain Drake coming up next. 40 seconds for that one, as Kingzone would like to monopolize that Drake.
And we'll just take another quick look at this replay. Pawn doesn't have teleport. So you ask yourself, why is Kingzone this far up? Well, I got the answer for you, Brendan.
What is it,
They
LS?
wanted to just get absolutely smacked by Sandbox here inside of this fight, as
some
everyone
people are into that,
was just getting they were getting in on the damage, and Kingzone just way too out of position. You ask yourself at the start of this, what were they fighting over? What were they trying to wave clear that was so imminent that they had to push that wave? And the answer is nothing when you had Rise up and top, and this was followed up with Operation Recall here from Sandbox. As you can see here that they tried their best to get Ghost, but Baron Recall turns out it's pretty good.
Don't get to see him escape from that one, but we all know how that one did happen as he gets away. And it looks like Mountain Drake probably going to go the way of Sandbox too, as they have the monopoly of the map vision. Not much on that right side for Kingzone either, as finally Sandbox also going to retake the gold lead in this one. And that fantastic comp alongside the Baron that they still have for a minute here, and did pick up the mountain. So the push begins as Pawn fake threatening on the side. Now he's really coming on in as he is quite tanky. In goes Cuz, big knock-up into that back line. Ghost has to flash to get away from that one. As now Joker, maybe the sacrifice. No, they're turning it around. True shot barrage onto Rascal, but the last second Devour, can they save him? As now on Fleek, not in the best position. Joker gonna sacrifice his life. Take a look at Deft and Pawn. They're carrying this fight as they're still alive on the backside, but even so,
this
the rest
could be
of Sandbox gonna stick around in the mid lane.
Can Jace land an EQ on the brush and stop the recall? It doesn't look like they...
A little bit too late on that one. Still on the chase, he sees Deft. Up on the top side.
If Deft goes left, then okay. They're not actually going to continue the chase. A little bit surprising right there. But nonetheless, Sandbox, they end up getting a middle inhibitor. Now, interestingly enough, the mid inhibitor shouldn't mean all that much. All right. Careful where they aim.
I mean, if they land those skill shots, that could have been a dead Pawn. It did have Zhonya's, but try to line it up with the Ezreal the next time around, looking for another two-shot barrage and a dream, but won't happen here as well. On Fleek did nothing in that one. Was in his stopwatch for the majority of that
They just
fight.
got the wrong symbol. That was infinity.
Oh, okay. They forgot to turn it around on its side. Okay.
Let's just take a look at how that happened here. As you can see, that they were trying to make a pick-off onto Rascal, and interestingly enough, they're trying to force the issue a little bit too hard rather than let Ezreal and Jace do the work. And so, interestingly enough, Kingzone actually had this opportunity where it looked like they were going to be able to turn the fight, but then Pawn not able to get in from the backside, and so Tushin able to save Rascal temporarily as Deft was able to dish out a massive amount of damage, while Summit takes down the Guardian Angel onto Cuz, and Deft able to bounce back with the kill onto On Fleek, but then Pawn and Deft were unable to approach the remaining members of Sandbox. An unfortunate turn of events.
Are you play-by-playing the
replay? I don't know. Well,
it was a good summation.
Thank you.
As you can see that even though the Ezreal and the Jace certainly do a nice amount of poke damage, if Pawn and Deft can get in position, Rise scaling up now to incredible heights, has that 1,000 gold bounty and 3.5 items here. Deft also with 4.5 items even on himself, feeling pretty good about that. They're going to be doing some sick damage if these fights can sustain themselves.
And interestingly enough, because of the capture of that last dragon, it forces the Elder to spawn, which now provides Kingzone with 2 potential opportunities. The comp for Sandbox, it does have a weakness, which is Baron. Anytime you have a poke composition, Ezreal Zoe being one of the more popular ones, is trying to resist Baron-enhanced minions is almost near impossible. And likewise, when Kingzone has such an aggressive engage comp, Elder Dragon can just add a little bit too much damage for the poke and sustain to try to reasonably kite backwards from or try to play front to back. And so, Kingzone has 2 last hopes. They're parted about 1.5 minutes apart. And if Sandbox, if they force a fight or try to really push an agenda, that could end up being the catastrophic mistake that could cost them the game. Pawn, looking like Rick Harrison right there on the left-hand side. He's waiting in the horizon.
He certainly is. He hasn't moved from that brush for about a good minute now.
Never know what's going to walk into him.
The TP comes out from Tushin, so does have the unsealed spellbook. Don't be too surprised with the TP. Taking the cleanse for now. More of a battle summoner. Not sure if he can get the smite here if the Baron fight does come down. Not going to swap just yet as take a look at some more items, and I was talking about the right side. How about Ezreal has that Gunblade completed alongside the Seraph, so everything he does is going to be hitting like a truck, especially with the mixed damage he's got and the double Infernal. This guy is a big-time carry now.
What's a small-time carry look like?
That's like an Urgot that never dies.
Okay.
He does a lot of damage,
This is the scenario where Kingzone could look to get an edge. Pawn is in the back. Cuz?
Okay, Cuz. Gonna have to force that flash devour. And now look at Pawn! He's all alone! There's no one to help him! Here comes the Abyssal Voyage! But okay, he does have that devour just barely in time.
Oh, Jace.
And what a mess this is turning into, trying to get the snipe, but he misses it! on the backside. Oh, man.
That looked like Jace on ice for a second. I wasn't quite sure. He curved that, it looked like, almost.
Yeah,
it was
he tried
absolutely insane. Baron goes down. Elder Dragon is live. Kingzone, they have one last chance in this game. They're coming off of Fountain right now. They need to beeline straight to that Elder Dragon. Doesn't look like they're actually doing it. And so if Sandbox just started, they have a Mountain Drake themselves. Doesn't look like they're actually interested in starting it right away, which is very surprising. And Dove, a little bit out of position. I think he's going to have to recall. Kingzone, they have to go for a flip.
Yeah, I mean, looks like they want to as well, and Tucson agrees. And take a look at Ghost's health as well already. Gonna take a gigantic chunk, but the TP is gonna come in now from the side of Dove. Here we go.
Here we go.
Can't get on fleek close enough. No, he's not going to. We got Elder on 5 members of Kingzone as they want to go for this fight. Joker, here's the Fear Beyond Death. Can he get the Fear on anyone? No, just gonna get the Galio. And will not overextend. Just one Gargoyle and a Dream. They're going to back away. That's going to be it for that fight.
And Kingzone fortunately get that Dragon. And look at how it compares to the Baron right now. That's going to keep them afloat. And so they're going to get at least one more shot at a Baron in order to stay inside of this game, as I do think it's going to be very unlikely for Sandbox to end while the members of Kingzone have the Elder. And this is just so surprising how Sandbox let it get like this, despite having the priority. But I guess Dove thought that 100 gold in top lane was extremely important. So, fortunately for Kingzone,
I mean,
they're going to be able to stay afloat right now. And
he picked up a second stopwatch. Maybe he was trying desperately to get enough gold for an item or something, but it absolutely wasn't worth it, because I'd take an Elder Drake over any item you're going to get at this point.
Just realized also that On Fleek almost has a almost has more deaths than he does have kills and assists.
Yeah, you know, he's getting close to the that nice KDA under 1. It's it doesn't happen very often.
That is true
in pro play, but he's trying. He's trying his hardest. Already, Joker has lived that dream, sitting at 0-6-5. But I mean, the funny thing is that they could still win. I mean, they're down 6-15 as On Fleek says, take me. Not going to quite happen, though, as he does get away. Still has his GA, too. And here comes the push in the bottom lane as everybody on the side of Sandbox a bit out of position. Pawn going to start that push here.
And what Kingzone's just trying to do right now is fix the side lanes, make sure everything looks nice and tidy in anticipation of the next 2 major neutrals. Cuz does have his Guardian Angel back up now as well. It looks like Pawn and Cuz are looking to get a little bit frisky here. But, nah, nothing's really going to come from it. They don't have a minion wave. In Sandbox right now, they just have to sort of juggle the lanes endlessly themselves, wait for the next Summit.
Oh, he gets knocked up there, but he's got a Tom Kent right behind him. Alongside Adept, and now Joker's in no man's land. Okay, World Ender gonna go down, but Joker, there it is. Rascal not gonna go in with the flash, but does get the kill. Is now ducked a little bit out of position. Trying to do some damage here, but Kingzone absolutely win that fight on the back of that kill.
And it looks like they're, okay. That's, I mean, that's a bit of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a fair amount.
He did pick Ezreal.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, that's if that doesn't say balance, I don't know what does.
Oh, that's a big ultimate. He's doing easily over 1,000. As
quick math.
Yeah, I'm trying my best here.
Well, take a look here. Summit clearing the control ward, doesn't know that an Aatrox and a Ryze were waiting in the horizon. Joker managed to get that knock-up just then, but ended up being told that he was going to enter the Fear Beyond Death, as Death ulted, I think, the animation for Lissandra's ultimate. And so even though it didn't go on cooldown, it was definitely a close call there, as Baron set to respawn in a minute and a half. And in the end of all of that, not really the most just ended up happening. I'm so sorry I have these hiccups that have been... They've been really getting to me.
Yeah. You've just been so surprised by the game so far that can hardly believe it. Neither can I, as Okay, they get the Banshee Veil as... Yeah, I mean, you were saying not much has changed. I feel like the biggest thing might be the Guardian Angel on Cuz. That was really the biggest change that happened. They're still very even on gold. Everybody's nearing 6 items at this point, and we're just going to have to wait for the next objectives to see which team is really going to make the big play, as we got about 45 seconds for that Baron.
Well, Urgot looks like he's going to take some of the time to try to fix and maybe get the slow push starting down in bottom. Blue is also coming up on the side of Kingzone. We're going to have to see where they end up allocating that, what champion will pick it up. We're trying to fix mid lane right now. And as we approach the 50-minute mark, the gold score at the top really doesn't matter almost anymore.
I mean, we've come far enough along that at 45 minutes, everybody should have near full items, and it's not going to make too much of a difference. The Infernal Drake's going to be nice for Sandbox. What do you think at 6 items for all these teams? Who do you think has the advantage at this point?
Oh, it's a massive edge for Ezreal and Jace. As long as they're playing correctly, it's near impossible for Kingzone to actually do anything if Jace and Ezreal and Sandbox are playing their team comp correctly. But thus far, we've seen them many times throughout this match refuse to pilot the composition the way that it should be piloted.
Well, they're going to give a shot at the Baron as they're continuing it here. The Realm War. Pawn obviously not going to take that one. They were looking to potentially turn on this, but...
don't know what they're doing.
I mean, it definitely feels like recent Sandbox rather than the Sandbox that 2-0'd Kingzone early on in the season. As now Kingzone say, okay, we have the inside track on the Elder. Let's just go for it.
I feel like I'm watching Georgie get pulled into the sewer.
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
As, you know, Def, they were pointing out his items. He attacks Ghost once and goes in a lot of trouble. It's going to come down to a flip, but it goes the way of Kingzone. And now they have 2 Elders here going for the fight. Cuz super low, and now Dove, not much he can do, but okay. Ghost got really fantastic positioning in the pit. They're going to be able to turn this one around. Tucson and Def, can they do any damage on the backside with the Devour? Heal comes in on fleek, gonna hit that stun, but they can't get the kill, and what is this fight? It's so close down to the bottom side. The Shock Blast is gonna miss, and they get the GA out of Zaya, but still, it is going to go the way. The last Shock Blast not going to kill Tucson, and there you go. Elder Drake goes the way of Kingzone. They pick up 1 or 2 kills on the backside as well.
This game just is so weird. The fights are constantly just going back and forth. And right now, before we talk about the replay, Sandbox, they're going for the Baron, but they forgot about the Abyssal Voyage from Thomas.
Forgot about Tom. Big mistake as a laugh. The crowd really loved my joke there. That was a good one. Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be denied as nothing is going to happen here. And we got 4 minutes now on an Elder Drake, the second one for Kingzone.
Yeah, and we take a look at this, and you can see On Fleet goes for the steal a little bit too slow. And one of the things here is that Pawn and Deft are zoned out from the real action inside of the pit. And so Ghost is able to rain down all of this damage, but then they really push the agenda here. You can see on Summit, he really wanted to get Deft and Tushin, and had they not done this, the 5 members of Sandbox, they could have all lived, they could have ran backwards and tried to run to the Baron and draw Kingzone into them that way. But they pushed on a little bit too much, and they end up actually losing a lot of summoners. Who got the
they lost the Baron too. I mean, they gave it over to Kingzone as
Kingzone's gonna win.
It was the death timers are too long, so Kingzone say thank you very much. I'm gonna just move over to the Baron. We have Elder as well, and yeah, not much they can do there. Now they're going up against 3 minutes of Elder and Baron at 48 minutes. Good luck to you boys. As one attack on a Ghost, he's super low again.
This is all but lights out. We talked about this. Poke comps, one thing, this is like a, I don't even know, this is like throwing water on the Charmander's tail right about now. This is extremely difficult to resist for the Jace and the Ezreal. They just don't have the way to clear the minions. I'm actually surprised that Kingzone were a little bit stunted on their rotation up to top. They might even lose the minion wave. Yeah, they do. So they're going to be waiting on yet another wave, and Rise trying his best. He's trying to run there and catch up to that. It's actually going to stall the minions ever so slightly. So they look to raise the top tier 3 inhibitor. And you can see the bottom tier 3 inhibitor turret also, it's on its last leg. Dragon still alive for 2 more minutes.
So what happens as the game goes so far along and you pick up that second Elder for Kingzone? I mean, it was so fantastic that they could pick that up, and it was looking Sandbox's way, but as you mentioned, they just kind of tried to go for the ending fight, essentially, instead of just backing away and going 5v3 versus Elder. And so it means that Kingzone, for a very long time now, a minute and a half, are going to continue on the push as Dove and On Fleek were looking for some kind of a flank, but it absolutely did not work. The Realm Hello. Right on top of that with the minions as well. They're going to take out every single inhibitor. And again, not much they can do. They're going to try to turn here onto Cuz, but he's got Guardian Angel. He's an Aatrox. He's going to take forever to die. Meanwhile, Dev just critting Joker in the face for 650.
Like a cat with 9 lives up there.
It's almost like he should have one more. The teams pull him back as, okay, he does go down. And now we enter 5v4. Can Sandbox hold them 5v4? Here comes the root. They want to get onto Def, but the double taunt is going to stop the Devour, but is it going to mean anything? Dove, he's going to get so low. Summit as well is going to go down here as the double stasis still not going to save the Lissandra. Joker desperately trying to save himself, and that's going to do it, guys. The minions push on in. Ghost not going to do it in Kingzone in 50 minutes. Going to take game 1.
And that was a really impressive turn of events where Kingzone, they were constantly battling back up a mountain, and through the misplays of Sandbox, they were able to capitalize on these opportunities where Sandbox kept fighting incorrectly, and it just fed right into Kingzone's team composition and what they wanted to do. We normally see this a lot in some teams in North America or Europe where very often they'll play to what they want to do rather than what the enemy team needs them to not do. And sometimes we do see it in the LCK. It's very surprising to see it happen here in such a manner where consistently throughout the game, it kept happening over and over for about 25-30 minutes, which was just so surprising. Because you would think that after it would keep failing sometimes, they would be like, okay, well, that didn't seem to work out.
Yeah.
Like, no, certainly we executed certainly wrong.
Something must be wrong. We just keep trying the same thing, you know? As, I mean, this is just the story of Sandbox's woes. I mean, they get what looks to be a great draft. They get what seems to be the advantage, and they get a real one in the game.
Oh, they get massive edges.
And then they can't end it.
Yeah.
They can't win. It's like they forgot how.
Yeah.
And definitely some problems as well on Fleek struggling on his main pick of Camille as well, which is also a gigantic question mark. Just shop it above my head right now. I can hardly believe it because, I mean, Kingzone, they lost
really
a bunch
weird
of stuff in the early game, but they were still able to hold on and win the game, so props to them. But definitely feels like more of Sandbox's issues right now.
Interestingly enough, this is actually a pretty prime example when people try to say that games can be lost in draft, because evidently not. When you get such a monstrous draft advantage and then still lose, this game is literally a picture-perfect scenario of how that can unfold. And in that regard, I think that it's actually quite fascinating. And like you're talking about with On Fleek and the Camille, just couldn't get anything done early on. He's one of the last remaining Camille players.
Yeah, he's the one guy that still forces it, and 80 carries. They do a lot of damage. Normally you would expect the Ezreal to be popping off in a huge way, and he did, but it was actually Def that takes the #1 damage in that fight, over 1,000 per minute, as he was going ham eventually on 6-item Xayah.
So I'm actually thinking who should probably get the MVP for this game, and interestingly, I think that it has to be Tushin.
You think so? He did have a couple of really key devours.
A lot of key devours, the Abyssal Voyage usage at a lot of points.
True.
Some of his tongues were really, really good and on point. Can't be the Aatrox, can't be Pawn. He ended up almost costing them the game at several points. Def did a lot of damage.
Def feels like the one who's going to get it just
yeah,
because,
well, of course, because stats, right?
Because he does damage and we don't have a vote, as we always have to say.
What is watching the gameplay, you know? What's that?
Doesn't count for as much when we talk about the MVPs, but hey, I mean, you never know. We'll have to wait and see if Tucson can pick that one up. I think he did play a fine Tom Kent, but Deft pressing his buttons very well, did a great job.